I think Raikkonen's got a great chance of winning this race, frankly. It depends on how it pans out for Mercedes, how hard they race each other. And I think Lotus can force Mercedes into changing their ideal strategy. It really depends, though, on the gap they can pull out to the midfield. Can they find a gap with a 21-second window to get in the pits and back out without too much traffic? So there are so many elements to this. But Nico Rosberg arriving by himself at the front of the grid. He'll have wished he'd backed the pack up a little bit more as Alonso points his car towards the enemy already.
And if Kimi Räikkönen is to win today from 5th on the grid, it'll be the first time in his Formula One career, all 181 starts of them, that he will ever have won from 5th spot. Two Mercedes on the front of the grid. Jules Bianchi in the pit lane will start from there. Red Bull have won the last 3 Monaco Grand Prix. Can they get a good start and try and go for gold to stop the silver arrows? You can't even see the start from right at the back of the cars on pole. Look at Lewis Hamilton pointing towards Nico Rosberg. The lights going on here. We have 5 of them ahead of the drivers in Monaco. It's lights out and away we go. It's a decent start from Sebastian Vettel, trying to get on the inside, but he's covered by Rosberg. They're almost wheel to wheel, the two Mercedes. Hamilton just squeezes past Vettel to keep that second place as one of the caterhams, as Guido van der Garde, goes through on the inside of Sainte Devote. Racing now up towards Massenet. You've got Fernando Alonso harrying Kimi Räikkönen already. Into Casino Square we come. Yellow flags are waving for an incident behind, but it's Nico Rosberg out in front. Sebastian Vettel locking up his brakes. Hamilton's got his covered. Him covered into Mirabeau, down towards the Lowe's hairpin, and a real concertina here. Look at Jenson Button and Sergio Perez there, and Adrian Sutil, who's been passed by Button, gets contact and loses part of his front wing, and Jean-Eric Vergne goes over it, and that's a Caterham Charles Pic, I think, with one of his front reels missing.
Yeah, the McLaren was side by side. I think Jenson probably got bounced into the barriers in Mirabeau, but Vettel knows that he must quickly get between those two Mercedes if he's going to do anything about their strategy this afternoon. We'll have Debrin still. The McLarens are hitting each other.
It's like Bahrain all over again. Where's the sand? Sergio Perez going straight on at the Nouvelle Chicane as into the swimming pool we go now. Rosberg from Hamilton, and there's Sebastian Vettel right up the rear wing of Lewis Hamilton once again. Down towards Raskas and almost to the end of the first lap, and Vettel just can't find a way past. Mark Webber holding 4th, Kimi Räikkönen behind him, then comes Fernando Alonso, and we now complete the first lap. It's Nico Rosberg who leads the Monaco Grand Prix from Hamilton, Vettel and Webber, and then comes Räikkönen, Alonso and Sergio Perez and Button. Who's this? Pastor Maldonado diving into the pits. Yes, it is. Lost half of his front wing.
I wonder if he's got some front suspension damage as well. So the yellows are now in, the yellow flags are in. Maldonado and Van der Garde in the pits. Van der Garde starting from 15th, of course. There he is for Caterham.
Damage on that Caterham, as I just saw a brief shot coming down into the Lowe's hairpin, and yeah, that's where he lost his front wing, Guido van der Garde. I thought he'd taken and dislodged one of the tyres as well. Bits missing on Adrian Sutil's front wing as well from his contact. And you need a front wing here.
And when he hit the Williams, it was already missing. The Williams was already missing its front wing. The zone there at the chicane, well, they have to yield that back. I tell you what we didn't see, Crofty, and look at this, and Hamilton having to get super defensive against Vettel with great traction out of the chicane. What we didn't see was Alonso's mighty normal start, did we? And I tell you what's interesting, you got Rosberg up front on 1:24s, and then the second half of the
DRS is now enabled down the main straight, down to you, Ted.
Yeah, down at McLaren, Jenson Button's been on the radio saying he's got to stop turning in on me, guys, referring to his teammate, Sergio Perez. They'll be going bonkers on the pit wall upstairs from here, but they're calm for the moment.
There's a piece of debris on the track, just inches off the racing line.
But that's Jenson having to tell on his mate, on his team, well, teammate, team associate seems to be the right word, doesn't it?
Yeah, I always think teammate is a bit of a contradiction in Formula One. And Mercedes can't react quick enough to preserve their lead. Let's look at the start again. Look how Vettel's diving to the inside straight away.
Some great driving skills down in turn one. Nobody locked their brakes. They didn't bump. It's really one at a time through there, but they managed to squeeze 2 cars through. And Lewis Hamilton had a great chance to take the lead, but it was going to be too bold around the outside. And then it all starts queuing up at the back. On board with Romain Grosjean
got
taking it, yeah, very pedestrian.
Yeah, got further than he did last year. And look, there's Sebastian Vettel locking up his brakes, can't go around the outside of Jenson Button and Sergio Perez.
Max, we need a lap time of mid-23s. A lap time of mid-23s.
So does that mean he's going too fast?
Jules Max has been told to speed up. If he doesn't, we'll do something about it.
Van der Garde a lap faster than the leaders. He's currently 22nd and last.
Hamilton is being told what he needs to do on the radio. He's also being told to watch out for his slip, his tyre slip, around the exit of the swimming pool. So maybe that will slow him down a bit.
Yeah,
so Perez went through 2 zones.
Okay, Mark, the gaps are not opening. The gaps are not opening. We need to look at after these tyres. Recommend a 2-second gap. Look after the tyres. Recommend a 2-second gap. Okay, mate.
That could be a safety car.
Yeah, I said he was limping, Charles Pic, and that's an engine fire on the right-hand side of the car, and it needs a fire extinguisher. Thank you very much, Mr. Marshals.
And of course, it's pit in as well. So what they're basically saying to Mark Webber there, while we watch for the Caterham barbecue to be put out, is there's no gap in the middle of the field to drop you back in. They're not pulling 20-30 seconds away from the midfield. We've got a pit. If you want a full pit, look after the tyres and don't get within 2 seconds a lap of the man in front of you, which happens to be your teammate, and stop damaging your tyres.
Cars now stream through. There's Felipe Massa right behind Gutierrez and Pic, as we see Paul di Resta into the pits while we look at this replay.
I tell you what, they did so well not to smash into the back of that Caterham and fly through the air, did Gutierrez and Massa. That's a horrible place for a car to suddenly slow down.
Try second gear in the chicane, try second gear in the chicane before tyre saving again. Keep thinking about saving the tyres. I think we have to go longer than the target.
Nico way out front and used Lewis once the first corner was said, the dust had settled in the first corner, to back them up, which they said they wouldn't, and they absolutely haven't at the moment. So now these guys are just spacing themselves out, not to get in the turbulent air. They stayed on and tested with both their drivers, which does, on the face of it, appear to totally contravene the regulations.
Yeah, which don't allow you to use this year's car or last year's car in terms of the sporting, the technical regulations. I think that's at the hub of the protest as well. Look at the bump there that Perez went over. I know that McLaren looks a little bit stiffer than some cars.
Alonso's playing the long game here. He's just stroking the throttle pedal, cruising around the track. He knows if he's going to one stop, which they're all forced into doing now, if they can, he'll get a dividend later on. Ted.
Yeah, and all the radio messages to the Mercedes drivers, Rosberg and Hamilton, are that things are going well, the tyres are wearing okay, but clearly if they're looking for gaps, Martin and David, to put their drivers back into, it's Grosjean that's the problem, because he's on the soft tyre and is therefore probably, going to go to lap 30 or 40, even maybe a bit longer, so they've got to clear Grosjean.
It happened with Kamui Kobayashi, I think, a few years ago in the Sauber, not last year, year before, where he kind of became the problem for some by going so long into the race on his opening stint. It's brilliant. It just creates the drama, and there's plenty of it here on this track. We might not see all the overtaking in the world at Monaco, but there's always drama in this race. So we ride on board, looking from the rear of the... There'll be some conversation between father and son.
Yeah.
They both go and meet the prince this evening.
What did he say to me on the grid? Who knows?
Who knows?
A big win. That was almost a who cares? I'm having a good day.
Now we get a better look at the state of their tyres.
Don't need slow-mo today, do you, at the moment? It's going to come alive, though. Stick with it.
Now Ricciardo comes into the pits as well. We've already seen Maldonado and Van der Garde after a first lap incident. We said that Ricciardo was struggling with his rears, Martin.
Yeah. To stretch out this first stint.
Meanwhile, at the rear, we're coming together between Pastor Maldonado and Jules Bianchi, and that's bits flying off the car.
Fence.
Yeah. Well, Bianchi down in 21st place. Sebastian Vettel has just done a fastest lap, and Paul di Resta has got past Felipe Massa. He looked pretty close going through the final turn. He went past our commentary box, and di Resta puts himself up into 15th place.
Good move then. It's down the outside where it's not so bumpy. DRS was enabled, of course, and he sweeps in And he's like, I'm having it, make your mind up, you better be going across the curb. So this is a great move. You say you can't overtake in Monaco, but Felipe opened the door up for him, and he swung in because he had to turn in.
Kimi Räikkönen comes in. That is a surprise. We thought he could go longer. That means that he'll be going very long in this second and final stint. Jenson Button also comes in, so it's a little earlier than they would have liked, especially for Mark Webber, but this could work out well for Kimi Räikkönen.
And Räikkönen slots back into the race again, behind Mark Webber, who you saw just going through your screen. Jenson Button has now come into the pit. So one car, Mark Webber, now starts to trigger a chain reaction here this afternoon.
They've left Vettel and Alonso out at the moment, Perez too, so they're splitting the strategy with McLaren. And what will Mercedes do?
Well, just looking down the pit lane, can't see their crew waiting to come in. Waiting to come out and change tyres, so Rosberg continues on his way once again. They've got to, if they can, run to the plan that's been working so well for them so far.
19.2 then for Rosberg, new fastest lap of the race. A critically quarter of a second still quicker than Hamilton as Fernando Alonso pits.
Yep, he's had enough of the super soft tyres. On go the harder compound, the soft compound, and they've all got plenty of new sets of tyres. As we used intermediates for the first two bits of qualifying. Alonso comes out behind Mark Webber. Where's Kimi Räikkönen? Räikkönen down the main straight, down towards Sainte Devote. Räikkönen ahead of Fernando Alonso then, as he comes out of the pits, and the double yellow is being waved, Martin, down at Sainte Devote. And it's for Felipe Massa, who's gone off at Sainte Devote for the second day running. It's another big accident for Felipe Massa. There's a lot of debris on the track. Straight in comes Sergio Perez for a change of tyres in his McLaren, and I wonder if a few more will dive into the pits as well. Yep, Jean-Eric Vergne. Rosberg and Hamilton are in the middle sector of this track at the moment. There goes Alonso, and Button. Perez will come out just behind Guido van der Garde, who stopped much earlier. Down to you, Ted.
Sebastian Vettel's mechanics came out into the pit lane. It looked like a bit of a dummy to me, but they've gone back in.
Another lock-up, absolutely identical crash, or start of the crash to yesterday.
That's bizarre. It's exactly the same accident he had in practice.
And we have still got a race on further ahead, though. Sebastian Vettel in then to the pits. The leaders stay out. Rosberg and Hamilton stay out. And we have now got a safety car situation. First time this year, the safety car has come out onto the track just a few days ahead of Bernd Mailander's birthday. And Adrian Sutil now comes into the pits as well.
The safety car's put out, so you can't go rushing around and making up time. They don't want people going past the incident, trying to make time. As Adrian Sutil then finishes his pit stop. And look, so the safety car's picked up.
He's picked up Vettel and Webber, and the two Mercedes at the moment are just coming through the tunnel. Rosberg and Hamilton.
They'll pit for sure.
Yeah, that's. I think you're right, Martin. You do want to stop as soon as the safety car is called. I think this might work out really well. Unlucky for Sebastian Vettel that he was picked up precisely at the time when the safety car joined. So Red Bull will be kicking themselves. It's a bad bit of luck for them. Here comes Rosberg.
I think they might even stack them. Surely they'll put them both in together. Yeah. They probably told Lewis to back off a bit. And let's see. Has he gone round?
They are.
I'm amazed they haven't just got Lewis to back off. He has pitted, yeah. They told him to back off a little bit, as long as you don't hold other drivers up, and then we'll do a double stop. It's a free stop for them. That worked absolutely perfectly for Mercedes-Benz. They can get back out. The safety car, because they're leading the race, the safety car will then, well, it's now released. Now it's released Red Bull. They've both gone through. Now the safety car has to pick up the leader again.
Well, it's not worked out, has it, for Lewis Hamilton, who now comes out behind both of the Red Bulls. It has worked out for Nico Rosberg, who is ahead of Sebastian Vettel as they go through Casino Square at the moment.
Yeah.
So it's worked brilliantly for one man, but not necessarily his teammate.
They're trying to tell Grosjean to go past. Massa doesn't make mistakes like that twice, or even, well, it's a fundamental braking issue, and what's happening is just snatching the front brakes, and before he can do anything about it, it's in the barrier at 175 miles an hour.
And he doesn't look particularly, well, comfortable, certainly sitting down there, Felipe Massa, being helped by the doctors.
You're right, because they released the Red Bulls so early, they got around. They're supposed to be at a controlled safety car pace, and it's hurt Lewis Hamilton badly.
Yeah.
It's worked out beautifully for Rosberg, badly for Hamilton, because the Red Bulls were able to scamper around, and effectively they virtually were leading the race, and now the safety car got to pick them all back up again. We nearly had a different race leader. So they were released because they weren't leading the race, and they almost did become the race leaders.
But as you can see now behind the safety car, the top three have changed. It's Rosberg from Vettel, from Webber, and Hamilton, because of that safety car, he's now out of the podium positions.
And of course he had to back off so they could double stack them in the pits as well, and that cost him.
Yeah.
It'd almost been better just literally cruising right in behind and getting a little bit earlier service.
When the safety car lights go out, you control the pace, okay? You control the pace when the safety car lights go out.
Officially an 80% chance that we get one. And it gets ever more likely as the years go on. This was Paul di Resta a little bit earlier, getting past Esteban.
Sebastian, your tyres were marginal on the last stint. Tyres marginal on the last stint. Wear limited. Take that into account into the next stint. It'll be difficult.
So we're now seeing Guido van der Garde start to unlap himself. Has no Kers, Guido van der Garde.
No Kers in the world, but he's now got a free track in front of him.
Basically raising the tyre wear alarms to Sebastian. I wonder if that was a dummy, because that would have been a gift for the likes of Kimi Räikkönen and Fernando Alonso, and indeed, well, maybe even Mark Webber and Lewis Hamilton, who are behind Sebastian Vettel, and indeed to Nico Rosberg, who's in front, knowing that the Red Bull is going to be nursing its tyres towards the end of the race. But, well, I guess we're just looking for the cliff, aren't we? Who's going to reach the cliff first towards the end of the race?
Okay, Lewis, can you use higher gears? Higher gears, just want to cool the car, but we still need to keep these brake temps up.
Brakes up, engine down then. No fans, of course. It's all about driving air through the radiator ducts to cool any number of things. Hydraulics, engine oil, engine water, gearbox oil.
13 minutes we've been running behind the safety car. This will be where Jenson Button got his place back on Sergio Perez after...
well, he was never actually ahead, was he? But he had...
And the safety car now goes and we can get racing again as they stream through Rascasse and on towards Anthony Nogues. It's Nico Rosberg who leads this Monaco Grand Prix. So far, so good for the man out in front. Down the main straight we go. And Lewis Hamilton just a little bit further away from Mark Webber than he would like to be. No chance of getting through. Räikkönen and Alonso and Button and Perez and Sutil make their way through the first turn, and Rosberg is away and off towards Casino Square once again.
DRS disabled, of course, for 2 laps after the safety car, so we'll watch for that to come back in.
That 5th place, and on towards the back they go. Hamilton makes a move on Webber, who has him covered and was expected. Alonso will take that as an invitation that is possible. Hamilton once again on Mark Webber, tries to have a look at to back, but there's no way through.
Mark Webber, you're allowed to move once, and then you're allowed to go back to the racing line as long as the driver is not alongside you, where you then got to give him at least a car's width. But
and then there goes Lewis Hamilton on Mark Webber. Into Rascasse they go. Hamilton just about squeezed out by Mark Webber without any contact whatsoever. He almost got up into 3rd place there. I said a couple of the GP2 drivers had tried that at Rascasse.
And Hamilton tried to force the Merc in there, and brilliant driving from both of them. They've got a bit of curves, and then Webber sweeps across. I must say, forget it, you're not coming through there. But amazing there was no contact.
And look, there's Räikkönen and Alonso once again trying to force his way, but he might be losing out to Jenson Button. He might have got a touch there from Button behind Alonso, who went wide through the Lowe's hairpin, and that couldn't quite make. Let's see it off board.
Yeah, Jenson just a touch of the wing. Alonso get away without a left rear puncture.
And now goes Perez down the inside on Button, and that was a proper move into the Nouvelle Chicane, and there's no way Jenson Button can complain about that. Sergio Perez up into 7th place now. Whoa, that was good.
Trying to keep him at bay.
Now let's have a look at this, like a cat on an unsuspecting mouse. There goes Sergio Perez pouncing. And they obviously behaved themselves on the Saturdays. Look, there goes Sergio Perez on Fernando Alonso. He's trying to move again. Alonso's had to take the escape route out here and cut the exit of the chicane. Perez was looking for another move down at the Nouvelle Chicane, and Alonso had to go right to preserve that 6th place.
They're all going to have to start getting racy soon because the safety car came out right bang in the middle of the one-stop pit stop window. They're all going to the end. Strategy can't really count anymore. We're waiting for getting towards the end of the race. Tyre degradation go off, then they're going to start overtaking even more.
Hey, Fernando got the chicane. Yep, understood, Checo, understood, we saw it.
So they're onto it. And the case.
Yep, it was clear to avoid the collision and to avoid the yellow curb, which would be a safety problem. We are checking.
And the case for the defence is given by Alonso. There is the Marussia. Is that Max Chilton?
Bianchi.
That's Bianchi, yeah, who's lost most of his front wing and is now wedged out of the Nouvelle Chicane. We see Chilton then. Oh,
goodness.
That was with Maldonado, who has gone straight on at to back.
That'll be, surely that's a safety car. And we got somebody else in there as well.
That was Bianchi then going in to the barrier that had wrapped itself around the Williams, and we've got a red flag. The red flags are out because that barrier is going to need repairing. But Chilton and Maldonado's coming together saw Maldonado launched into the air. Oh, it's good to see Maldonado getting out of the car after that, Martin, and walking away from the accident.
Yeah, that particular type of safety barrier they've got there is brilliantly effective. And Chilton pulled back in before he was clear.
Yeah, I'd like to see that again, certainly.
Pastor Maldonado's okay, so for some reason then Max has moved over to the centre. Right, he's now moving over to take the correct line. Doesn't recognise that the Williams is there, starts to fly, luckily comes down again, although it's going to smash straight into the barriers. And if you're going to hit something in a Formula 1 car head on...
This is quite an extensive repair job anyway. 20.5 miles of safety barriers they have around this 2.1 mile circuit. Tepco barrier back into place again. Let's have a look here. So Gutierrez and Chilton. Chilton just getting it wrong at the chicane, and then just pulling back in, and
he just didn't know he'd come up the outside of him, I think. We got to...
It might not do anything either way for Nico Rosberg. We'll wait to see on that. And we'll wait to see whether it does anything for Lewis Hamilton, Räikkönen and Alonso. But glad to say that Pastor Maldonado was asked on the radio after that whether he was okay. He said, yes, I'm okay, and he's out of the car.
Here in Monaco, normally there's a medical centre right by the circuit, but they get taken to the hospital here.
The FIA have made a decision, so in fact he should have done it before this happened, so I don't know how they're going to cope with it now, but clearly he's either got to give a place or do a drive-through, I think.
Alonso's been told by the FIA to give that position back. How do you know that?
Well, I heard he was arguing with his pit crew about it, so they wouldn't have told him to give it up unless the FIA had told him. So the FIA have told us that they've instructed that he had to give the place back.
Ah, interesting. Yeah, it sounded like on the radio that his pit crew was sort of arguing the case of a strange sort of safety case.
Okay, Checo, Ferrari have been told that Alonso has to give the place back to you. Ferrari have been told Alonso has to give the place back.
Fernando is confirming that out of last corner, he was not using the curve to let Perez go. So we didn't use the curve for this reason.
See, Andrea, I spoke to Charlie about that. Actually, the solution I asked Charlie is to give the position back at the restart, after the safety car is coming back to the pit, and he is speaking to the stewards at the moment. But if we will get the order, the decision, we have to respect it, so we will see. Come back to you.
Okay, so we will give the position back once we have the restart after the safety car.
Andrea, no, this is what I offer to Charlie. He's discussing this with the stewards, and he will come back to me.
And that is what Martin Whitmarsh was talking about when he spoke to Ted a few moments ago. And after the race had been red flagged, you can spot Fernando Alonso on the left-hand side, just going over to Sergio Perez saying, should we just do a little gentleman's excuse me, you know, after you, after me, swap it round, sort it out between ourselves?
I think he's...
And if you were on race control at the time, you'd have seen that happen live. So the drivers obviously have no problem with it now. We lost Felipe Massa to another hefty impact down at Sainte Devote. Massa taken to hospital for checks after the second day running, where his Ferrari crashed at that corner. We lost Bianchi and Maldonado in the crash that brought about the red flag.
Can we have a bit on the front wing? Can we do that now? Yeah, I had too much understeer on the option run, so if we go up a turn, that'd be good.
Yeah, and it's a time, isn't it? Under this red flag, just to regroup, take stock, make a few changes should you need to do so, and work on how you're going to get to the checkered flag and improve your placings.
Dave, what tyre do we think other people are going to use? Okay, so Checo definitely an option, and we expect everybody else will also be on option.
Both Red Bulls were limited on their first stint of the option tyre. They've got to do 5 more laps on this set that they've got now.
There's definitely a set of options on the McLaren. So they prefer used options to new soft compound primes, and that's the race leader going that way.
Okay, we will give the position back behind the safety car. Behind the safety car.
That makes
Correct, so do it straight away, basically.
Safety car pulls off into the pit lane, and we can go racing once more. Nico Rosberg leading them round the final corner and on towards Sainte Devote, and we begin lap 48 of 78 here in Monte Carlo. Rosberg from Vettel, from Webber and Hamilton, Räikkönen, Perez, Alonso, Button, Sutil and Verne, the top 10. De Resta, Hulkenberg, Ricciardo, Grosjean, Bottas, Gutierrez, Chilton, Van der Garde, Bianchi. The drivers racing here. Down towards Mirabeau we go. I would imagine Alonso, when he went to shake Perez's hand on the grid, said, yeah, I will get you soon, don't worry. There goes Hamilton on Webber. There goes Alonso on Perez. Webber just manages to stay ahead, as does Perez on Fernando Alonso. And he's just swarming all over the back of that rear wing of Sergio Perez's car, just to let him know he's there, trying to find a gap and an opening. Stable where you need it the most. Now Hamilton's very close to Mark Webber here. This could be an opportunity to try and dive down the inside at Rascasse. Is he going to go for it again? Mark Webber was alert to it this time and rather shut off the opening. Knew Hamilton had tried it once, so could try it again. DRS is enabled, rear wing is open, Hamilton's going for it on the inside into Sainte Devote. Webber has placed his car absolutely perfectly. So there's a bit of race tyre preservation. There's Adrian Sutil on Jenson Button at the Lowe's hairpin, and Button got out of the way to avoid contact and then very quickly had to close off a gap because Jean-Eric Verne was waiting. But that's a really good move by Adrian Sutil there to Hamilton. Is he too far back? Yes, he is once more. And look, there goes Sergio Perez and Kimi Räikkönen. Räikkönen having to take evasive action because Perez once again was trying to force his way past him.
Actually, Räikkönen was effectively pushed off the road at that point.
He's certainly hooked up, and just a few moments ago on the team radio, Kimi Räikkönen giving his view of Sergio Perez's overtaking skills as there goes Adrian Sutil down the inside at the Lowe's hairpin. He's done it again in that slowest corner.
To do something. So.
And there it is, the Marussia down there of Jules Bianchi.
What an afternoon, what a weekend he's had. All a bit bad.
Marussia is there, and let's just see how it came to get there.
So his DRS is open. It's wide open, wasn't it? It's closed now.
He locked up, unlike Felipe Massa.
Of course, down at Lowe's as well. Lotus.
There's a Lotus of Romain Grosjean down there. And there's a car ahead, which might well be Daniel Ricciardo in the Toro Rosso. Yeah, confirmation that that is Ricciardo, and they've had a coming together, which is why Grosjean has lost another front wing. Let's see what happened. Into the Nouvelle Chicane. That could have been nasty. Minus his rear wing.
Yeah, he'd connected coming out of the chicane. There's his rear wing. So they'd already connected long before they got to the turning point. So what's going on here then?
This is the start of Grosjean and Ricciardo.
So it's just misjudged his braking point. He's got sucked into the braking point. And as Ricciardo's hit the brakes in the middle of the racetrack.
And there is confirmation that Romain Grosjean is out of the race. Talking of animals, it's back to that collared dove.
Well, it can't be the same one that did the double back somersault in the GP2 race, can it?
I haven't counted the feathers on on little speckled Jim this afternoon.
Okay, Kimi, we're losing water from the engine because it's too hot. We're losing water from the engine because it's too hot.
But Mailander pulls away once again, and they're itching to get on with this, as you can see. Nico Rosberg leads them away as we go racing in Monaco once more. Rosberg, our race leader, from Vettel, Webber, Hamilton, Räikkönen, Perez, Soutel, Alonso, Button, Verne and De Resta. The top 11 as Humpo Rivage they go. He's coped with everything that's been thrown at him. Adrian Soutel under pressure from Fernando Alonso around the outside of Lowe's. There goes Paul de Resta having a little look at Jean-Eric Verne Gutierrez behind Guido van der Garde. Van der Garde running in 14th place at the moment. If he stays there, it'll be his best ever Grand Prix finish.
A big bump on the way out of Perez then.
Yeah.
Goes.
Oh, and there's Räikkönen as well. Now, bit of a contact between Perez and Räikkönen. Certainly Räikkönen having to catch the car.
Räikkönen in a hurry.
We'll see in a couple of moments, I'm sure, what started that out. And we can see now on the run down to the chicane what happened.
So Kimi's gone to turn in, and Perez is right in the wedge. Let's see, Kimi turns into the corner, so he's covered him off.
And he's certainly losing a bit of ground, Kimi Räikkönen.
He's got a left rear puncture.
He's got a big puncture, hasn't he? There's Adrian Soutel, Jenson Button and Fernando Alonso. Button up the inside of Fernando Alonso as Räikkönen comes into pits. Jenson Button takes Alonso, moves up a couple of places because Räikkönen now has gone from 5th place down to about 15th. Perez or not, he's the one that has suffered, and he is the one that has moved out of the points. But there, Fernando Alonso bogged down a bit behind Adrian Soutel, wasn't he? That gave Button the opportunity.
Yeah, very opportunistic there from Jenson. So we're going to see it then on board with Perez. I think he was entitled to some space there. I think he was entitled to a little bit of space.
And that puts Paul de Resta into the points. And could this now be the first time in 23 races that Kimi Räikkönen has failed to finish in the points? He's only 2 shy of Michael Schumacher's record. There's Perez, leads Adrian Soutel, leads Jenson Button, 5th, 6th and 7th. Then Alonso, then Verne, De Resta. Behind De Resta comes Hülkenberg, behind him Valtteri Bottas.
Jean-Eric Verne holding his own in there as well. Perez, and he's really struggled on that.
Under braking, he just had to release the brake. He was locking up.
He'd have had to yield. Well,
Soutel's tapped him, and Sergio Perez has gone wide at Rascasse and almost taps his teammate as he rejoins the racing line once again. That's Fernando Alonso, I think, going into the pits, and Perez looks to be out.
I think Perez was trying to go in the pits, is what was going on there, and he just couldn't find a slot to get in there. His teammate was up alongside him as well.
Let's just see.
I don't think he did. No, I think he's really struggling. I think he's got suspension damage, and I think he's really struggling to brake the car now. We saw it at the chicane, and we saw it again at Rascasse.
And there's Perez just trying to, as you say, go into the pit lane, and there's Jenson Button blocking his way. Now Soutel in 5th, ahead of Button, Alonso, Verne, De Resta and Hülkenberg into the points. And there are 4 laps to go onto the final lap with our race leader. Räikkönen's not that far behind Gutierrez and Bottas. Vettel gets the fastest lap, but Nico Rosberg, with one more corner to come, is going to get the win that they prize the most. His dad took it 30 years ago. In 2013, it's another Rosberg who wins in Monaco. From Keke to Nico, it's Rosberg on top. Vettel and Webber come home to take the podium places. It's a 2-3 for Red Bull, and Lewis Hamilton misses out on a top 3 finish. The first round of pit stops rather did for him. Adrian Sutil comes home in the top 5. A super drive from him. Jenson Button, I'm sure, will be satisfied with 6th, but not Alonso with 7th. Verne ahead of De Resta, and Nico Hülkenberg should be the final man home to take the points finish. But you've got to hand it to the...
Raikkonen got it. Raikkonen passed Hülkenberg. Got a point.
The record, the run, well, the run continues. The record can still be on for Raikkonen. What a last 5 laps from Kimi Räikkönen then.
Yeah, we haven't seen it on screen. I just caught it on the computer here as they crossed the line. And Hülkenberg ended up 6 seconds behind him for some reason. So must have had some kind of problem on the last lap.
Yep.
There's a double yellow out there, so maybe...
Hülkenberg was about 7 seconds ahead of Räikkönen with 2 laps to go. And I was just checking it out, Martin. So there must have been a little mistake there.
And the Kimster gets a point.
You've done it. Well done, mate.
Monaco Grand Prix, can't believe it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. The car was really awesome today. This is really special for me.
Very well done, Nico. I couldn't imagine you driving any better than today. Fantastic job. With all the events going on, you managed it perfectly. Great job.
Yeah, a lot of distraction during the race with the red flag, with the safety car periods, distractions before the race, of course, with the protest by Red Bull against Mercedes. But through it all, Nico Rosberg has been super fast here in Monaco, and he wins ahead of Sebastian Vettel and Mark Webber. Top 5 finishes, I said, for Adrian Sutil. Jean-Eric Verne comes home to equal his best ever finish in Formula 1. And Max Chilton, 14th for the first time in Formula 1. Guido van der Garde, his best ever finish